We are going to be talking clients and dating.
It's really key that we really understand our clients that we work with. We know their product, we know their brand proposition, and then likewise, we have our own nuances. One that we perhaps encounter more often than we'd like to is the classic, which is classic on the dating profile. The ghoster, takes ages to reply, inconsistent communication, it comes in quite hot and then it's cold, that kind of thing.
Do you think sometimes the ghosty bit happens because they love the idea of what we do, but then when we're about to actually take the plunge, they get cold feet?
Another classic dating profile. It's the sells you the dream, maybe love bombs you, classic kind of frat boy style, and then disappears.
A one and done.
A one and done. Inclusion isn't going anywhere, not if we have anything to say about it.
Hello and welcome to the Purple Goat podcast. Today I'm joined by Beth Sadler from our accounts team, and we are going to be talking clients and dating, getting under the skin of the different types of client, their own personality, and why they might act in a certain way and what we can learn from that in the work we do at Purple Goat. So thank you so much for joining us and enjoy. Today we are joined by a new face on the podcast. We have Beth Sadler.
Hi everyone.
One of our wonderful AMs. What's it like to be on the podcast?
Exciting. Quite intense, but exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Today we thought, because you are obviously one of our AMs, I'm sort of in the client world as well, we thought we'd kind of take a bit of a deep dive into the world of clients, and you had this lovely idea of we sort of connect different types of client with different types of dating personality.
Yeah.
Hopefully that gives us a wonderful kind of, nuanced view as to all different clients and how they operate, and ultimately I suppose we'd love to get sort of down the line of actually, how should clients behave when working with us, and actually what creates the best outcomes for clients when working with us. So that's the goal. So let's see if we manage to get there. That's the ideal.
And we'll start from the ground up.
Yeah.
We'll work from the worst.
Yeah, it could just be a complete say. Yeah. So without further ado, do you want to kind of firstly sort of give a little intro to you and how you found your adventure in and around Purple Goat since joining, and what you do in your role as AM?
Yeah, 100%. Hi guys. I'm Beth. I actually head up half the team, the client side at PG. We're missing the other Beth, but that's fine. And I am an AM at PG, so an account manager, which obviously means I basically look after all client-facing stuff. So first point of contact for the client, anything the campaigns team need from the client, all and everything in between, essentially, all comes through me. I feel like the middleman is the best way to describe it. But I've been at PG for a year, and having had a experience or background in client-facing roles, obviously coming to PG, we've got the disability element and the inclusivity element that makes relationship building and working with clients, there's just an added layer, So when we're working with our clients and we're building out really strong relationships, we obviously have that at the forefront of our minds. And I think that just makes, our client relationships are very nuanced, which is why it's going to be super interesting to deep dive into every single kind of client we have and all of the different ways that we interact with our clients. But yeah, love it. What else can I say?
Just, I suppose, one question. That kind of balance of all day, every day, naturally advocating for inclusivity in our work and taking clients on the journey, has it been more insightful for you than maybe in theory you'd imagined? Obviously when you were interviewing, we're saying we're driving clients forward, we're hand-holding them, we're making them comfortable. I suppose only once you're actually doing those campaigns day in, day out, and you're living and breathing it, do you actually see what aspects that actually involves, where you're actually hand-holding them as well. Like you say, obviously it adds a layer, I suppose. Could you just almost reflect on the bits that maybe you didn't know until you came into the role?
Yeah, I mean, obviously in all kind of account management roles, there's always going to be, you're always very tuned into the fact that every client's different, they have their nuances, you've got to get to know them. And I think that being said, living in 2025, we're all super aware of inclusivity, like DE&I is on the forefront of all brands' minds, etc. I don't know what I expected, to be fair, but perhaps, like you say, it's been very interesting to see how each and every brand we work with has a different approach, or like you say, how in touch they are with it, or their mindset around inclusivity and what we're working with, how to kind of bake it into their brand, but also like take them on the journey. It's always super different. And I don't know why I thought it wouldn't be, to be fair. But I guess I just had this idea that because everybody is like, everyone's switched on to it, everyone knows about it, we're all working towards the same goal, we hope, that it wouldn't be like that. Whereas I'm always surprised by the differences, like the different mindsets that our brands have, or the different approaches. And therefore, like I said, it's really key that we really understand our clients that we work with. We know their product, we know their brand proposition, and then likewise, we have our own nuances, and we get that sweet spot of bringing them together in the right way, even more so than in in any other role or maybe previous experiences that I've had.
I suppose that's a lovely segue though. It's like every client is trying to do relatively similar thing. They're trying to put out a best in class campaign, and they want to drive inclusivity into their work as standard. But as you say, the way that we get there is so different for different clients, and their sort of, whether it be kind of, fears, concerns, KPIs, again, are all very different. Yeah. So without further ado.
Without further ado.
You've done the lovely work of kind of breaking down these different client personas. We obviously won't name specific names, but that are kind of giving us an overview of the kinds of clients that enter into our world, and then we can discuss the good, the bad, the ugly of those.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously our clients, it's my job to build up relationships without being cringe. And there's quite a lot of similarities between perhaps the dating world and the way that we interact with our clients. So we thought it might be fun to run through our clients and perhaps some different profiles of clients and how we can interact with them and how we can kind of get them on the right journey, and coax them out of maybe some, not toxic traits, but some things that are hindering them from progressing with the relationships, shall we say. My personal fave, well, not my personal fave, but one that we perhaps encounter more often than we'd like to, is the classic, which is classic on a dating profile, the ghoster. Okay. The ghoster. You know what it's like. Takes ages to reply, inconsistent communication, perhaps it comes in quite hot and then is cold, that kind of thing. And when that comes to clients, I guess that translates to, communication is perhaps the biggest working point for us. We hear from them intermittently, they seem really interested, and then, like you say, we can go weeks without talking. And even when it comes to a campaign, perhaps communication is few and far between. So then it comes to how do we turn that relationship into a healthy, open and honest, strong communication relationship, and how do we get it to work for us? And I mean, the first biggest thing is, if you're a client and you know that everyone's busy, we're all really stretched for time, so we'll always completely appreciate that, we're not always going to be able to reply instantly to everything, but the best relationships start always, obviously, with open communication and consistent communication. And as we've just spoken about, if we don't know you and we can't get to know you and your brand proposition and what you want, then we're not going to be able to form the foundations for the best relationship anyway. So it's super crucial that we try and find whatever way is best of finding that consistent and open communication.
Do you think sometimes the ghosty bit happens because they love the idea of what we do, but then when we're about to actually take the plunge, they get cold feet, and for whatever reason, they're not ready? What do you think it is that sort of makes that go from a seemingly lovely, cuddly conversation to then, they've just disappeared?
Yeah, I mean, that is so classic. Yeah. But I think so. And people have probably said it on the pod time and time again, but we obviously do get a lot of brands who are nervous and are intimidated by inclusivity as like this big idea. Yeah. And similarly, you know, as we all do, we're all working with budgets and how to like commit to that. So it's that combination of wanting to spend the budget in the best possible way, but also finding that how to step into our area, intimidating, like you say, and nerve-wracking. And to be honest, I don't know if you'd agree, Dom, but that's so fine. It's so fine to be nervous and intimidated, and it's also like it feels like a much bigger step than perhaps it is. So again, that's just where like we can really help with that. Like we can provide all the reassurance, we can build out, we can help them to see that like the little steps is how we're going to get there, etc. So it's all right if you are a client or you are a brand who's like nervous about taking that first step into the inclusive world, and that's potentially the biggest thing that's holding you back. Like, don't let that be don't let that be the thing, because we're there basically.
I think in terms of a like client sign off perspective, I also find, and we've honed our kind of workflow over the years to try and get in the room with clients as much as possible, because the person that we're speaking to might get it. They might be a natural advocate for what we do, but we know that there's, in all likelihood, they're going to their boss or their boss's boss for sign off. If that individual has all the same hesitations, fears, insecurity around what we might do together, then unless we've met them and we're in the room with them, like, we understand that there's a bit of nervousness there. So when we're pitching, we want to do it in the room. When we're kind of presenting, we want to take them on a journey. When we're meeting for the first time, having it in person is really great. And we do find that that really helps to kind of remove that fear, but then also remove the ghosting a little bit as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like we are ready and prepped, aren't we, for some of those conversations? Like if we can get in the room with the more senior management or whoever it is who's taking the decisions, we know where we're ready to kind of fight our corner and perhaps have the slightly more commercial driven conversations or whatever it's taking for them to like just edge them over the step, and just like you say, like just to commit. Commit. Yeah, no commitment issues in 2025.
Hit us with your next one.
Okay, the next one is another classic dating profile. It's the sells you the dream, maybe like love bombs you, classic kind of frat boy style, and then disappears. You know?
A one and done.
Yeah, that's a classic. And again, for when it comes to PG relationships, that perhaps links to our clients who are looking to do something as a tick box exercise, or what we would refer to as genuinely quite a lot of the time unintentionally, but like a tokenistic approach, which is just doing something for the sake of being inclusive, but with no kind of, or perhaps not yet, they don't have that forethought of what comes next. How can we go on our full inclusive journey? And like we say, sometimes it's unintentional, like you doing something for the sake of it, or like doing something because you have a commitment to inclusivity without thinking of the longer term journey isn't necessarily a bad thing. But that is like, sometimes that is kind of like a client relationship or a dynamic that we have to manage, isn't it? It's the idea of doing one thing without like considering any further campaigns or any further impact, etc. And I guess there's a two-pronged approach to that, but one of them is kind of hand-holding and also kind of helping our clients see if it's unintentional. You know, like if they have the right, like you say, they have the right intentions, perhaps it's not done in the right way. Sometimes it's just coming from a learning perspective and helping our clients see like why that might be a tokenistic approach. I mean, being transparent, even before working at PG, there's been times where I've really learned in the past year or so of things that are tokenistic, and you can have all the right intentions in the world and you still, you know, for whatever reason haven't got it right. So again, yeah, that's that first prong of like teaching our clients and making them see.
Yeah.
And then there's just like showing the value, you know? We want the long-term relationships, not the short-term. Short-term relationships, they're not for us, are they? You know?
Right.
We want what's the right word I'm looking for? We want the reward of that long-term fulfilling relationship. And so sometimes all it takes is that first step, but in order to commit, they want to see the value.
The bit I'm always amazed at is we can have a really, really like positive, energized conversation. It can feel really good, and then only when you're like underway with the campaign, you sometimes realize that, oh, this is actually a little bit more like tokenistic than I thought it was going to be, which is always fascinating to me because it can feel like exactly right at the start, but then only, you know, once you're underway do the sort of real intentions around it kind of become apparent. And I suppose you articulated it really well, like how we counteract that is slowly but surely, you know, doing our bit to educate is the reasons why that isn't our preferred approach, why we don't want it to be a one and done, and being quite open with the client about that, because, you know, the idea is that this is an iterative process. We I suppose challenge our clients to think about inclusivity not as this sort of singular route to perfection, but this sort of iterative journey where you're never going to get to perfection, and you're just trying to refine, develop, and be open to that development. And what we're doing in the here and now is just one part of that journey.
Exactly. And like, inclusion isn't going anywhere, not if we have anything to say about it. So like this, like, you know, as you say, that's how we want our clients to see it. And also in like a broader sense of the market and social media, like this is something that is, it makes sense to be invested in, and it makes sense to like work it into your longer term brand strategy. I think we're on to, another classic, the overthinker, you know? Yeah. So I guess this would be someone who is always worrying, maybe likes to be in control a little bit. Obviously, like we say, has good intentions, but panics, stresses, and therefore it leaks into, like you say, wanting to be in control and just micromanaging, perhaps. And from a client perspective, this is, not trusting the process, and not because they don't trust us, but again, perhaps it's due to internal regulations, or it's due to like strict guidelines coming for what we can and can't do, etc. And whilst like I completely appreciate that, we know, like, we've been doing this for a while, and we want to work with brands in the best way to get the best results, but also with inclusion at the forefront of our minds. And so sometimes that can be another difficult client relationship to manage, because they just trust, you got to trust the process, they've got to trust us. And likewise with our creators as well. Our creators have been in the space for a while, and they know the content that works best for us. And so it kind of spans across all of the things we do, across the whole campaign. Like, that trust is definitely one of the key things to a super, super successful campaign.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think with the client that is, you know, is fearful, it often comes from a place of the fact that we're doing something new. They haven't done this before, and of course we're really understanding of that. It's when that translates into, oh, we're not actually willing to change from what we're doing right now and how we do it in that process, that we find quite difficult, isn't it? Because we know that there's certain kind of flexibility, certain adjustment, certain processes that we implement that we know ensures that they deliver a best-in-class campaign. And that might be met with a little bit of a, like, computer says no attitude, because that's not how they've done things historically. But they want to do this inclusive campaign, so you've kind of got this sort of friction point of sorts. So our job in that moment becomes really explaining why we are, you know, proposing me certain things, why we're doing it a certain way, and hoping that they are open to that iteration because they want to achieve these goals and we know how best to get there. And it's a really interesting relationship because those can turn into really, really good ones. It's really fascinating where there's this hesitation and this fear, and then actually you work through it. Similarly, brands might be scared that the sort of community feedback's going to be, oh, this is tokenistic or whatever, but that's not the case either. We know that historically we have incredibly powerful, positive, community sentiment in what we do. So we're confident in the way we do things resulting in strong community sentiment as well. That's how we validate what we do as an agency. So it's really about over-articulating, I suppose, to our clients about how and why we can help them to change what they're doing and why they're doing it, and to deliver that really powerful campaign.
Yeah, exactly. And we just have to make sure that at every stage of the campaign, like you say, when we're choosing our creators or when we're suggesting change, if it's an insight project where, there are iterations or versions of a product that could be modified so that it's more inclusive or whatever it may be, like you say, if there's that constant explanation and that constant support of why we're making these choices, and like you say, not hand holding, but just making sure it's really clear. A lot of the time that does help kind of alleviate the anxiety, and then like you say, we go on to have really successful campaigns, and often then perhaps that might be the client the next time that's a little bit braver. And then we start to see really pushing the boundaries of kind of creativity and what we can do with a campaign. And then it just gets really fun and really exciting. So that, that's maybe that they're an underdog of a relationship.
Yeah. There's opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
A diamond in the rough.
Exactly. But I think we're coming on to our dream client. If we could mold our client into the perfect profile.
The perfect profile.
Yeah.
What's on the perfect profile?
What would we want to see? I guess it just summarizes nicely everything we've discussed. Comes to us more with a conversation, more with an idea, and from the get-go, we collaboratively discuss how to build out a campaign, or if they're willing, a kind of a strategy together. I would say, wouldn't you say, first step?
Yeah. It's just a really collaborative, trusting relationship from the start.
Yeah, exactly. And is excited and engaged, ready to listen. And likewise from us.
Yeah, you want the butterflies.
Exactly.
You want them to be excited as to what we can do together. You want them to know that we can embark on something totally new and unique that you can't get elsewhere. And when we get that, that's really exciting for us as well, because they're open to treading new ground, trying new things, and that is very much a two-way relationship in that sense.
Exactly. And we are obviously so excited by new clients and all the things we can do together, and it's great when they are as well and they see this as something fun. And then we build out, a proposal. We pitch, and we manage to land on an idea that we think is great and works for both sides, and we're super excited about. I guess we've all been in the room from the get-go, and getting in person, meeting the client, building out that relationship from the get-go, and establishing, I guess this is when the AMs come in, establishing the goals and the objectives, super clear goals and objectives from the start. Not to say that these can't be malleable, but it's really helpful for us when a client is really clear on what they want to achieve and they have strong goals, because it makes it really easy for us to kind of see their vision and what they want from a campaign or what they want from our strategy.
I totally agree. Yeah, I think that for us, these clients fortunately exist, and we've got numerous clients that we're having a great relationship with. We're not too polyamorous, don't worry. But yeah, we've got numerous clients that we're having really, really rewarding, powerful, strong relationships with, and that enables us to deliver our very best work. That kind of trust element, which is something that we've talked about on a number of these different kind of sort of personality types, as it were, dating profile types, that I suppose is the red thread that when we get to this ideal client, they are also, they can be like a stickler for detail or whatever it might be. That's absolutely fine, because we want to be that too. It's the fact that they trust the process and are open to the change.
Yeah.
And when they go, right, we want to be the most inclusive X brand, and we're like, great, we can help you get there. These are the ideas. What do you think? And they're excited by that. They're not just intimidated, because we know that if you just come in it from that, like, oh no, then that's not the right approach for anyone. You know, you don't want someone, taking it back to the dating analogy, that's like, oh, not sure that I want to go out on a date. I'm not sure. You want someone to be like, yeah, let's go. You don't want to be overthinking it. You just want to be kind of jumping in with 2 feet.
Yeah, you don't want to ask someone for a coffee and they go, okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, like maybe, or like fine, I guess.
Yeah.
You want them to go, yeah, Sunday morning or whatever.
Why don't you meet my parents?
Yeah, no. In this scenario. But yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think that it's that balance, like you say, of having all of their like objectives, goals, nuance, whatever about their business, at the same time being trusting, open-minded, open to change or direction, and having that balance is like the sweet spot. I guess like for us, the dream client starts, we work on those insights campaigns, you know, like if I think about some of the amazing relationships that we have at PG and the ones that are really have such a good basis for really long-term relationships, we've worked with them to think from the ground up of their product or their brand first. They've been super open to looking at themselves, how they can be more inclusive. And then we've taken all the learnings and all the insights for whatever it may be, and then we started working on influencer or, you know, creator or whatever it might be, a PR, I don't know. But we've done that. We've got all the learnings, and those journeys just create for like amazing long-term relationships, because they will be authentically inclusive, if that makes sense.
Yeah, perfect. What a wonderful whistle-stop tour of client dating that was.
Maybe I want to go on a date now.
Watch out, Johnny.
Yeah, no.
Well, thank you so much for being on the Purple Deck podcast.
Thanks.
How did you find your first experience?
Fun.
Will you be back?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope I have Beth also at my side next time.
Yeah, next time we'll have a Beth shaped.
We can tag team it.
Yeah, that'd be lovely.
Nice.
Well, thank you for being on.
Thanks, Dom.
Thank you all for joining us. Thank you to ID Studios as well for hosting us in this wonderful, inclusive, accessible podcast space as always. So please do check them out as well. And we will see you next time.